support players, I know you gotta empathize with this. You've been this Zenyatta. We've all been this Zenyatta. The enemy just presses W past our team in a swift rollout, blink and you'll miss it, and the fragile glass cannon support hero is gone. What a tragedy, the poor guy never saw it coming. But, as we're all well aware at this point, Brigitte now is the go-to pick to turn the tables against those pesky DPS players. With one hero selection swap, the hunted becomes the hunter. In today's video, we're going to break down a Brigitte playstyle that you may not be familiar with. It's most common, I think, to see her defending the backline or manipulating the front line, but from the second best South Korean contenders team, Kongdu Panthera, the player Youngjin has really showed off what you can do when enabling Brigitte's full aggressive potential. If I had to sum up Youngjin's Brigitte playstyle in a sentence, it would be he looks to find opportunities to flank and surprise squishies to get his battle Brigitte active. Let me show you a few examples of what I mean. Normally, when a Brigitte player has Rally available, it's time to all gather around the campfire, but Youngjin almost never uses it that way. Instead, for him, Rally is an opportunity to get a speed boost to go at the backline. He did this time and time again in the Contenders playoffs, and the technique is fairly simple. You find yourself in an aggressive off angle where you have third-person view so you can see the enemy coming if they're going to overwhelm you, and especially if they pass you up, you can sneak past undetected, chase after the backline with your powerful stun, nearly one-hit kill on a squishy, and of course, Rally gets a bit more value if it's used in the mid-fight since it caps out anyway, so although you're not giving it to your team, if Brigitte is allowed to brawl long enough, it might come close to seeing the same level of value overall as it would if you gave it to your team prior to the fight. But if we think about it, how many times do you armor up ahead of time and the enemy either pokes it down from range or fires an ult at you that it doesn't really end up mattering? Instead, what Youngjin shows us with his gameplay is that when it comes down to it, Overwatch is just about getting frags. And using Rally in this way looks very reminiscent to me of players using Primal Rage to secure even just one key kill, or even solo shattering a key player in order to get them out of the play, using these ultimates that you may think get way more value being used in other ways, to instead find aggressive uses of it, turns Brigitte essentially into the damage character that a lot of pro teams utilize her as. It's even been said in the past that in many ways Brigitte has kind of taken over a lot of similar jobs that Tracer used to back in the day. For example, here's a setup on Volskaya B, and where do you think Youngjin is? Is he with his team, pressuring up the front line? Or is he off on a mad flank, waiting for a pincer attack to completely bully the high ground off? Now, in some of these cases, when he goes aggro like this, it isn't just about full-on dedicating for the kills in front of him, because Brigitte is limited in that capacity, but the spatial control, in this instance the denial of high ground completely, the enemy had to run, get funneled into the rest of his team, and just by mere positioning in an aggressive way to surprise the enemy, robbed them of their biggest advantage, that back high ground, and funneled them all together. In a previous video, I think we've seen a player like Mickey for the Dallas Fuel play like this as well, but Youngjin kind of takes it to a whole nother level. Look at this setup ambush on the defense. He hides way over to the left on Junkertown 3rd here, and waits for the enemy to funnel in. As the fight starts coming through, his teammates back up a little bit, because until Youngjin gets to the fight, they are a man down, but with the enemy distracted, thinking that they have more space than they actually do, surprise, Youngjin comes out from the backside and takes out the enemy Widowmaker. And all of this gets set up by the control of the map that Brigitte has when you find these really money locations where you can hide and still have vision around corners to gain information on where the push is coming from and then make your play. This is why you're able to use Brigitte in the DPS slot, because she's very comfortable, obviously, in the natural position in the center of the team, healing everybody and brawling it out, but she also can go on these devastating flank missions. Let's take a look at Metabellum as they're trying to set up for their own ult combo, pushing into the Choke of Streets phase here on King's Row. I can't even find Youngjin anywhere on the screen. I've looked really carefully. I assume he's hiding up top on the hallway, maybe even on the enemy side. And as the play breaks out here, both teams attempt to drop Graviton Surges on each other, but Youngjin pops out and stuns the enemy's Hanzo during his cast of Dragon Strike, and following it up with the kill, denying the major ult combination that Metabellum was banking on in order to even get out of this choke. Now, he does end up trading his life for that, but that's a huge play, especially when you think about there's few DPS characters in the entire game that have reliable stuns. Doomfist, McCree, and they actually feel less secure than Brigitte playing in this position, because although Brigitte does less damage, she does enough to secure kills, and she has way more durability. The last moments of the enemy's attack here, Youngjin's Brigitte is hiding in the hotel using third-person view to scout ahead. Just like we saw on Junkertown, a very similar bait. They don't know where Youngjin is, and as they try to push onto the cart, he gets a free kill on the back end on the Zenyatta. This does end up getting traded out, but when you play in this aggro Brigitte style, it forces the enemy to turn and deal with you, just as it would with any flanker, but with Brigitte's kit, she has way more durability, so that backline harassment pressure lasts for multiple seconds longer than it might even if you're running a flanker like Genji or Tracer. And especially in the Brigitte meta, the enemy has their own Brigitte. It's much harder for Tracer to go on a flank mission like this than it is even for your own Brigitte to do so. The cool thing about this playstyle is that even when it doesn't secure kills, it forces a response from the enemy. It either guarantees a kill on the backline, or it makes so much space that the enemy is going to be split in half. While the backline's dealing with you, the frontline battle goes way better. For example, these two clips on Volskaya. Pops the rally to get the speed boost to come chase after the Widowmaker, and he just can't get bursted down by anything. He's gaining his passive aura healing from hitting his flails, and he has rally armor. The tanks functionally do no damage. The enemy's going to have some big burst of damage to even kill him, and because they can't and they all have to parry back in order to deal with this flank, this diva is going to be getting left high and dry. The same thing ends up happening on this push, nearly bursting down the Lucio, but the big peel back has to come through, but not everybody can peel at the same speed as like the Moira, who can fade out of the play. In the mess of all of this, the enemy Reinhardt is just getting left high and dry, and this is why it reminds me so much of Winston's Primal Rage, because these same type of divide and conquer strategies work where you boop the enemy's backline away from the front line so your damage can more easily kill it without the supports being able to heal them. The reason why I'd say this Brigitte play has progressed this way is that despite many tank players feeling like Brigitte's stun completely locks them down, realistically, tank players fare much better against Brigitte than a squishy support or DPS character when locked in an engagement. If you cast a Discord or an anti-nade on Brigitte, the tanks kind of clean her up, and it's only tank characters that can even potentially survive the big shield bash whip combo. Now let's finish out the video looking at my gameplay where I try to adapt this playstyle. So first example, I have the rally. I could use it to put it on my Zarya, that's a pretty good call, but I'm waiting to control this high ground to guarantee this duel against this McCree, because if the McCree gets the high ground uncontested and we're all fighting on the point and they're able to shoot down, things can go really badly. Even giving up a tick here is way more important than trying to stop the tick and leaving the McCree up there to do what he wants to do. And you can just see Brigitte in a hallway just controls space. It's not even that difficult to do. Almost by mere positioning tactics alone, you can command parts of the map and just rob them from the enemy, making it so that they're going to have to figure out a way to either outposition you or to straight up beat you in a head-to-head. And what ends up working for this enemy team is that I get caught trying to peel in the backline to save my Hanzo. My whole team's on the point, but what did we let open? The high ground. So we fall victim to the worst of all worlds in this situation. I'm not able to burst down the Genji. The Ana's able to get healing from a far distance, eventually gives him nano boost on the blade anyway, and the McCree gets up top for high noon, which is interesting because if you think about it, if I instead sacked the point and let my team maybe even die and gave up like a tick and a half, using that to buy time for me to go kill either the McCree or the Ana, this entire defense might be in a different state. As soon as the enemy wins that positioning battle and gets themselves set up on Hanamura high ground to shoot down into the point, it's just a shooting gallery for them. So interestingly enough, this aggro Brigitte playstyle isn't just some niche idea. I think in some ways, it's exactly what you need to do on a lot of maps, especially if someone on your team isn't fulfilling those jobs. If you don't have characters to do that, whip out that flail and go smash some squishies. Guys, let us know what you think about this aggro Brigitte playstyle. We do have videos on the channel that are dedicated solely to countering Brigitte. If you're still struggling against Brigitte, remember, I am starting to incorporate your guys' gameplay into our videos as well. If you want to submit games for us to feature on our channel in our informational videos, you can send in gameplays to youroverwatchplays@gmail.com. I'd be fine if you sent in some gameplay of you losing against Brigitte and you weren't sure why, but also we're going to be doing another Maps Everyone Plays Wrong video, so send in footage of you losing on Rialto and Route 66, specifically getting held on the first point. Guys, that's everything for me. If you did enjoy the video, please be sure to leave it a like. It really does help us out and lets us know that you're enjoying the content. And if you haven't already, please subscribe because we upload each and every day. So you're going to want to hit the bell icon so that you get notified when our videos go live. Link to the description is our Twitter, where we tweet our news updates and take memes. That's been it for me. I've been FREEDO for Your Overwatch. I'll see you guys next time.